Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, Svetlana Patak. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5 Question Friday. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, answer 5 questions about Croatia from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, expatinCroatia.com, email, my consulting sessions, Cam's consulting sessions, and people who leave them on a sticky note. And I love sticky notes. I'm sure that I've killed many a forest. So I am on the island of Susak today, which I'm going to show you a little bit of Susak where I am, as well as tell you a little bit about the island. First, let me tell you why I'm here. So I am visiting a lovely lady named Marina, who is a friend who I met through Expat in Croatia, and I'm here on her island. This is where her family is from. Would you like to say hi, Marina, to the lovely people at home? That's Marina.
Hello. Welcome to Susak.
She is an amazing tour guide, and she's been telling me all the ins and outs of the island, some that I get to share with you, some I will not share with you, because that is the unspoken rule of Croatia. So just a couple administrative items, and then I'm going to tell you all about this wonderful thing. I'm not sure I got the cables right on the sound, so if you're having trouble with the sound, shout out. And also, it's really bright here, so I'm having a hard time seeing stuff. But if you need something, scream at me. If you've got a question, scream at me. All right, so let me tell you about the island of Susak. First, where is it? Susak is tiny, and it is an investment in time to get here. So the way I got here is I drove to Zadar. I took a 7-hour car ferry from Zadar to the island of Lošinj, and then I took a human ferry to Susak, which was an hour. Wasn't that big a deal. But there's no cars on the island. Well, there's one car on the island for the people who have the lighthouse. They're the only ones who are allowed to have a car on the island. So aside from that, it's just tractors and motorbikes and bicycles and stuff, which is pretty neat, I gotta say. I kind of like not having cars around. What else? So this is in the northern part of the country, in the kind of Kvarner area of Croatia. There are about 80 to 100 year-round residents, depending on who you ask. And then during high season, there's about 50 to 100,000 tourists, again, depending on who you ask. So it's small. Marina knows just about everybody. So like just walking out of her house is like, hey, 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 hey. Yeah, it's a small place. And so there's only one village, and everyone has the same street name, and there's a lower town and there's an upper town. So Donji Grad I Gornji Grad, and you get to the upper town by stairs. So Marina was always saying, let's go upstairs, which I thought was delightful. Most of the island is completely wild. So what I mean by that is it's just vegetation and wildlife, and most of the island you can just be out there completely by yourself and no one would know where to find you. And something that's super crazy is there's this plant called Trstica. Did I say it right? Trstica?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like bamboo. I'm told it's not necessarily bamboo. I need to do a little bit of digging on that. But it was not natively here, and then someone introduced it. And can we hear you speak in Croatian? Yes. And yes, and I'll see if I can pepper some stuff in. Where was I? Trstica. There's a Croatian word for you. So it's like bamboo. It looks like bamboo, at least. And it wasn't native to this island. And someone brought it here, and it just went crazy. So it's taken over the island. It's everywhere. So it's kind of nuts to see this kind of bamboo-like plant everywhere. And then aside from that, it's mostly shrubby, I would have to say. What would you say?
Yeah, shrubby.
Shrubby. But the whole island is made out of sand, which is very unique in Croatia. Most islands in the mainland, it's all rock. It's not to say there isn't rock here. There definitely is, and you're going to see that in a minute. But the island is sand. So like what I'm looking at right now are like giant shrubby covered sand dunes. And there was this one part, this path that we walked down where you had these, big sand dunes on either side, and it's really kind of packed in, and you can see where people have carved their names in there. But Marina shared some wisdom from your grandmother?
Yes.
From her grandmother that you should never do that because it could destabilize the sand and it could all come collapsing down on you. So we did not do that. Also, there's lots of ferns, which I think is really cool. It makes it feel super tropical, but there were a few times where it was just nothing but ferns just unfurling before us, and I really, really love ferns. So that was pretty cool for me. And then you've got seaweed, which is what you see behind me is big piles of seaweed that have come up on shore. So we have done so many things. Actually, first I'm going to show you where we are, and then I'm going to tell you about the stuff we've been doing, okay? So I'm going to pick you up, and I'm going to try and be gentler than I just was, okay? All right, so, by the way, we are at Plaja Bok. So the name of this beach is Bok, B-O-K. Just like the Croatian word for high and by. Easy to remember. So, see? Got some sailboats out here. So that directly across, that is the island of Lošinj. And you can see that big hump there. That is Osord. Is it a mountain or is it a big hill?
Susak is the highest spot of it. It's
Okay.
like a big hill.
Big hill, but it feels like it's not quite a mountain, not quite a hill. So the town is around this area. So we got here today because we kayaked here. So you can see our kayak there in the distance. That was super fun. We actually kayaked here twice today. And then this way you can kind of see all those like furry, hairy bits sticking out. That's the turstica that kind of looks like bamboo. And so these are all like big sand dunes that are surrounding the beach. So it's not bad. It's not bad. You know what? Let me take you to see the water because we're here, And some of you, sadly, are not anywhere near the Adriatic Sea. So why not experience it, all right? What do you think? Ledano, I don't know that word. Is that like, lead is ice. Are you asking if it's cold? It's not cold, but I wouldn't say it's warm either. All right, let me set you back down and get you all positioned and stuff. Okay. All right. Yes, I can repeat the name of the island. It's Susak, S-U-S-A-K. So you can get here from Pula, Rijeka, and the island of Lošinj. So there are ferries.
And Zadar.
And Zadar. Wait a minute. You can get from Zadar directly here? Or you mean go Zadar to Lošinj and then here?
I think there's a ferry Zadar. And goes on to Pula.
What? All right. So there may be, Marina says that there may be a ferry that goes from Zadar directly to Susak and then on to Pula. I'm definitely going to have to look into that.
Zadar, Lošinj, maybe Pula, Lošinj, Susak, Pula.
I lost my questions.
Oh, no.
I hit my phone and I lost my questions. Oh, yeah.
Well, the scenery behind the phone.
Yeah, how about I just step aside and let you look at it while I find my questions on my phone. Come on now.
And legit sound therapy with the race.
Oh my goodness. I legit cannot find my questions. I didn't delete them, did I? That would be sad. That is exactly what I did. Okay.
Did you write them in your...
Oh, no. I got them back.
You got them
I got them back. Okay. Whew. Oh, I deleted my questions apparently, but they were in my trash can, so I have them. So a few more things. So what we've been doing, we've done so much stuff just in a small amount of time. I don't know if you've seen all the stories. But we went hiking all over the island, which was a really wonderful experience. There were some places where the vegetation and the sand dunes and everything were so close on both sides. So we're literally like going down this very, very narrow channel. We went to Velastasia, which is like an old abandoned military installation. No, building, not a building.
Yeah.
Building would probably be way more accurate. Base. It's definitely not in use anymore. And although I don't think I've put that on stories yet. So keep a lookout for that. Mary Ellen's here. Hey, Mary Ellen. We also, she took me hiking along the sea, along the rocky parts, and she took me to this bat cave, which means that is where there are bats. They were sleeping while we were there because it was the middle of the day. And then we crawled through the bat cave and out the back of the bat cave, which took us to this really nice spot. And we happened to find some salt, like sheets of salt that had collected in this little like rivet, I guess, in some rock where some seawater had gotten in, and then the salt dried, and we were just able to pick it up. And that was amazing. And we took it back to our house, and we dried it out in an egg carton, and we put it in some eggs, which we had gone by her friend's garden. They have a beautiful garden, and they gave us zelena salata, like green salad, and the most amazing rucola that I've ever had in my entire life. It had so much flavor. I could smell it from like a meter away. And so she sauteed that up with some Lottie Luke, like some spring onions that they also gave us from the garden, and eggs, and then the sea salt on top, and then some truffle cheese from Istria. Oh, it was unbelievable, unbelievable. What else did we do? Oh yeah, okay. So then we were over on at the port, and two of her friends were fishing, and I will not say who. This is a very small place. So they were fishing, had like a dozen fish. I don't think I put that on stories either yet, so keep a lookout for stories on that. But then one of them cleaned one of them, and then did a full sashimi plate for us. And I said, well, do you have any chopsticks? So he takes some dried turstica, the stuff that looks like bamboo, and just right in front of us, just cuts it into chopsticks. And I'm like, custom chopsticks for everybody out of resources. I mean, that was a pure island meal there. And today we're doing a beach day. So we were here earlier this morning, and then we had to roll back to the house because I had a call, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. And now we're back, and we've been squishing in the sand, and I've been picking up seashells. And apparently, Marina tells me this is a cuttlefish shell, which is pretty neat. I wish you could see this. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to show it to you, but it has so many layers. I've never seen a cuttlefish shell before, and lots of seashells. I've been checking out, and a bunch of sea snails and everything. The last thing I want to say. So we watched a Dinamo Rijeka game at the one of the most popular cafe bar in Susak, or on Susak. And somehow, even though Hajduk wasn't playing, they were still being heckled, which was very entertaining. So that is what I've been doing on Susak. I'm still here till Sunday, so we're trying not to like completely overwhelm you with stories, but there's so much concentration of amazingness. That wasn't the most eloquent statement, but I mean it, where she's such a great guide, taking me all over the island, showing me all these super special things, and I can't wait to share more with you. And I know there's going to be a video that we're going to put together, at least one, to show that to you, but keep a lookout on stories for more. There is something else, a couple other things I want to tell you about this week. It's been a very cool week, by the way. It's been very rich. So last Sunday was my birthday. And on my birthday, a friend of mine and I went to the source of the Cetina River, which is about an hour and a half drive from Split. And that was gorgeous. I put some stuff up on stories from that. If you've never gotten the opportunity to do that, do that. But just keep in mind, you cannot swim there. There are signs posted. We got into a bit of a kerfuffle with a couple of tourists that didn't think that was that rule made any sense to them, so they did not want to follow it. But there is a reason for not swimming in there, because that's where they get drinking water. And, you know, our bodies are coated in sunscreen and lotion and deodorant and cologne and perfume and all kinds of stuff that shouldn't be in the spring. Oh, Eve! There you are! Okay. What next? What next? What next? Okay, I think we should go ahead and dig in the questions. And then maybe midstream, I'm going to tell you about this call I had today because I've been really excited to tell you about that. Okay, so this first question comes from Glenn on the 5 Question Friday forum. I'm preparing to move to Croatia from Arizona. Arizona has lax vehicle restrictions. I'm shocked. And I drive a modified Jeep that's lifted and has big tires. Where can I find restrictions to street-driven vehicles in Croatia? Great question. So to boil that down, he has modified his vehicle. He wants to know if there's any rules that would prevent him from bringing that car to Croatia. So all cars in Croatia have to pass a technical inspection. In fact, there's a special kind of inspection that happens when you import a car called homologacija, and then every year you have to have your car technically inspected, and they're going to evaluate the car to make sure it meets all the rules and regulations. And if a police officer stops you and they get the sense that your car has been modified or has not been properly inspected, they can send you to the technical inspection to be checked out. So tuning an engine, taking out or adding parts of the vehicle that are not allowed unless you have an appropriate certificate, those are examples of modifications. So most modifications are permitted, but they have to be carried out following specific regulations, manufacturer's instructions, and professional rules. And to get the certification for those modifications usually costs between 50 and 1,000 euros. Oh, my allergies are kicking up. Okay. So if he wants to know if his car can be brought to Croatia without any problem, then what he should do is contact a technical inspection station in Croatia. It doesn't matter which one. We do have a list of all of them, so if you would like a link to that, then shoot us a DM and Cam will get that over to you. Sorry guys, but I'm just dying over here. Okay. So what else do I have for you? Oh yeah, we have a guide also on how to import your car and belongings, so we can also shoot that over to you. And if you would like the sources about the modification, we have a couple links that we use to do this research. Okay, so the next question comes from Abhinav. I hope I pronounced your name right. On the 5 Question Friday forum, if I have Croatian permanent residence, can I change my permanent residence to some other European country? No, you cannot. You cannot. Now, some EU countries will allow you to use your Croatian permanent residence to get a temporary residence in their countries, but you have to check with that country to see what their rules are. For example, if you have a permanent or a long-term residence in another European country, Croatia will allow you to use that to get a temporary residence in Croatia, but it would not be a permanent residence in Croatia. So it's important to understand that. I mean, every country, while there are some similarities because of the European Union, not all systems are created equal. So if you want to go from Croatia to another country, make sure that that you check those rules first. So if you are a permanent resident in another EU country and you want to come to Croatia, shoot us a DM and we'll send you the residence guide specifically for that. All right, I'm going to go off camera so I can do this properly so I won't have to do it again for a while. All right. Okay. What's next? What's next? Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is an anonymous question that came through Instagram here. So do you have some favorite credit cards for earning points in Europe or Croatia? We mostly use Amex, and since it's not generally accepted in Croatia, looking to see what expats are liking. So I am going to make a generalization, and I'm pulling this out of my butt, but I'm doing it from an educated perspective. To get credit in Croatia is difficult when you do not have a Croatian income. So having credit cards, being an expat and having a credit card in Croatia is not as common. So I just want to start there. But let's just talk about what the options are. So Visa and MasterCard are the most accepted widely in Croatia. Diners is not accepted everywhere, so it's not a popular option. Amex is generally accepted, but it's not as popular as Visa and MasterCard. And I have seen American Express like actually try and sell directly to Croatians. So it's actually accepted more often than you might think. Most banks offer all of these cards, but if you travel a lot, then online banks are great, like Revolut and Wise. Revolut does offer points when you use their card for purchasing stays or certain transactions. We have a link for that if you'd like it. Erste Bank, which is my bank and my favorite bank, they have a money back program on some of their cards. You have to activate the discounts in the app to get that to work. And Diners Card also offers certain discounts in stores. Most banks have Visa cards that offer miles for booking flights. There are not too many types of these programs in Croatia, not in comparison to like the United States, for example, but every bank has something to offer that could be some incentive for using their products and services. Okay. So we do have a guide on the 7 largest banks in Croatia, and it kind of goes down the list of their services, and also, which is the most important, a link to find their branches and their ATMs, because Croatia is a very localized place, not just when it comes to banks, but even like supermarkets and stuff like that. So like Ersta is what I have, and they have some locations in Split, but they don't have a high concentration in other parts of the country. They're most concentrated up in the Rijeka area. So I love coming up to this part of the country because there are ATMs on every corner. But PVZ is more popular down there. So when you're considering a bank, yes, it's important to find a bank that is you're comfortable with, that has the right services, the right price point, that kind of thing. That has good experiences, of course, but it all matters like what your distance is, because a lot of the banks won't let you make major changes to your account unless you go back to the original branch. So it's something to keep in mind. And also, Croatia is still a cash-based society. So I'm taking out cash all the time to function. Whereas if I go to the States for a month, I don't have to take cash out once. I can just use my card all the time. The same if I go to the UK, I don't ever have to take out cash. But here you need to have cash for certain places and certain situations. So this brings us to our lawyer tip of the week. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so this is related to property. If you are a third country national who wishes to purchase residential property in Croatia, you cannot get approval of the ministry based on a pre-contract. You must request permission using a full purchase contract only. However, if you have already signed a full purchase contract, how are you, as the third country national, protected in case the ministry doesn't give you approval to purchase the property? In Croatia, a purchase contract is not dependent on paying the full amount of the purchase. What you can do in this case is sign the full contract and only pay the capita. Capita is like a security deposit that is paid by the buyer, which shows your intent to buy as a means of protecting both you and the seller while you work out the finer details, like handoff, for example. 10% is standard, but it can be whatever you agree to. If you, as the buyer, back out of the purchase, then you lose the capita. But if the seller backs out, you get a refund of the capita times 2, which is pretty rad. If something happens that's nobody's fault, like not getting approval of the ministry or a flood on the property, then the amount is refunded just one time. However, these terms must be stated in the contract, which means you need to have a good lawyer who is going to put the right terms in the contract to protect you. Then once you receive approval from the ministry, you pay the remaining balance. So I would love to share a real experience that I had related to this in particular. So I bought my apartment in 2021. I made an offer in June, and then I paid capita. So I paid 10%. And we sent the purchase contract to the ministry for approval. And that took 2 months, which I'm told was actually a short amount of time. On average, people tend to wait longer. All right, let me do some adjustments here, guys. And the bank, Ersta, would not consider my loan until I had approval from the ministry. And they told me that that process would take 2 weeks, and that was not true. That was not true at all. There are all these steps that had to be gone through. They had to come to the house and inspect it to see if the value in the purchase contract matched their assessment of the property. There was a lot involved. And the woman that I was buying the property from, she was retired and she needed the money from me so that she could pay the final balance of the property for the new apartment she was buying. So she was about to lose out on her property, which means I was about to lose out on my property. So with my lawyer's guidance, we worked out a new agreement where I paid a bit more than the 10%, like a bit extra. And we signed a new contract, and that contract said, like, if I don't get ministry approval, she's going to give me all this money back. So I was, protected, and I'm really glad it didn't come to that, because even though you can be protected with those contracts, that doesn't mean you're going to get the money back tomorrow. Someone could fight you on it, and it could take decades. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. So that is how the process looked for me. So from beginning to end, my offer was approved in June 2021. I moved into my apartment the day before Thanksgiving, November 22nd, 2021. So it was a full, nearly 6 months from beginning to end for that entire process. Okay, so I want to quickly tell you about the call that I had today. Anyone who's spoken to me in the last 6 months, and then if you were following us about 6-7 months ago, oh gosh, maybe even longer ago, in September, you would have seen or heard that my colleague Maria and I were in Susak. So I am on island Susak, but now I'm talking about Susak, which is a town about 50 kilometers away from Zagreb. We were there for a conference and also to meet with the director of the tourist board. And I just fell in love with it. So did Maria. So did a lot of people at the conference who'd never been there before. We just had such a wonderful, wonderful time. And I've been trying to work, figure out some different projects that we can do to support the community there. And then one just kind of fell into my lap a couple of weeks ago. My buddy Don up in Zagreb calls me up and says, Sarah, there is this new project to help some up-and-coming entrepreneurs in Susak, and they need a committee member who is a representative of the Association for Croatian American Professionals. I'm on too many committees. Will you do it? And I was like, yeah, anything you want, Don. Of course, I got your back. And I'm on the Business and Entrepreneurship Committee over at ACAP, so it was a perfect fit. I was happy to do it. So essentially what happened is we had 6 different candidates who submitted their applications for this project. And what they win is 1 year free at this incubator in Susak called PSAC. So they would get to take an office there. They would also get mentorship and access to workshops and courses to help them build their businesses in their infant state right now. And I got to review kind of all their applications, and then we had like a scoring instructions on how we're supposed to evaluate all of them. So we did that, and then today we all got on a call. So each one of us was a representative from different Croatian organizations, and we got to pick the top 3. And I love the top 3. I think they're great. And in particular, one of them, I really, really want to talk to her because it seems like there's going to be a lot of potential for her to offer some services that are currently not offered. I'd love to tell you more about that at another time, but it's a bit too early in the project for me to share all that. And I want to make sure I ask for permission first, and I speak with her first about it. So that is pretty neat. To be a part of that project. And Susak is a really cool community, and they're very lucky to have this incubator PSAC there. When I saw the list of courses and workshops, I was like, I want to take all of those. But my Croatian is not in a state where I would get as much value out of it as a Croatian was. But if you're in the Banovina area, I would check out PSAC if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're even thinking about entrepreneurship. That is a great place to get some help and get started. Okay, so our next question comes from Sandra. She's from Australia. She wanted us to tell you that. She's here on Instagram. Hey, Sandra. I would love to know how you deal with nut allergies and sesame allergies when holidaying in Croatia. Whether you're holidaying or living here, the answer is going to be the same. So this will apply to a lot more people. So Croatian restaurants and cafes are fairly open-minded these days and will usually help you avoid certain foods. I mean, especially when you're in a tourist hub along the coast, like it just doesn't benefit them at all for you to go into anaphylactic shock on their floor. So they're usually pretty open to you telling them what it is you need to avoid. So definitely ask if the food contains whatever you're allergic to and be clear in telling them what you're allergic to, because then they will take it more seriously. Always ask about the food preparation because of cross-contamination in case you have a severe food allergy. If you're going to be staying in a hotel or going on a tour or excursion, notify your host in advance so they can take that into consideration in preparing your food before you get there. Many restaurants now identify dishes on their menus according to the biggest allergies, so you can also keep a lookout for that. If you're buying food in supermarkets, it's great to know that according to an EU regulation, EU countries are required to clearly label the 14 major food allergens if they are present in any prepackaged foods. So I'm going to quickly list those off for you right now. Cereals containing gluten such as wheat, barley, rye, and oats, crustaceans such as prawns, lobsters, crabs, and crayfish, egg, fish, peanuts, soybeans, milk, nuts such as almonds, hazelnuts, walnuts, cashews, pecans, Brazil nuts, pistachios, and macadamias. Celery, mustard, sesame, sulfur dioxide, and sulfites if the concentration is more than 10 parts per million. Lupin, I do not know what that is. And mollusks, such as clams, oysters, scallops, snails. That's not a snail. I threw the snails back. And squid. Okay. So this is our last question, and it comes from, we got a comment. Good to bring translated chef cards with your allergens to hand to servers. That is an excellent idea, Mary Ellen. Absolutely. And I thought I actually had something like that in here, and maybe I did. I skipped right over that paragraph. Daniela, my dear colleague, wrote, it is also good to learn Croatian words for the food you're allergic to, like tree nuts and similar. That's a great, great piece of advice. That way you have something you can reference or point to or hand to the server. Okay, last question of the day. This comes from our dearest colleague, Terry Maxey. Is there an interview when submitting your citizenship application? Yes, there is. But the format of that interview varies depending on where you are applying, whether you're applying abroad or whether you're applying from within the country. So if you're applying abroad, that means that you're going to be interviewed at the consulate at the time that you submit your application. And the nature of that interview can vary depending on the caseworker that you're talking to. They're going to ask you questions about your application to make sure that you know what's in your application. But they might ask you some other questions just about your life and your family and that kind of thing. So just be prepared for that. I've never heard anyone have concerns about that interview just yet. I have about the Croatia one, and I'll explain why I went through it myself. So in Croatia, there's typically two interview statements that you have to make. So one is a statement. In my case, I had to go into the police station. I had to make a statement about why I was applying for citizenship, and I had to, and on what basis I was doing it. That's when I submitted my application, okay? And so based on the answers to the questions that they asked me, they typed up a statement and in Croatian, and I had to sign it. But then there was a second interview, and this is where they sent a field officer to my house to ask me a bunch of questions. I was told that, was I told that this was going to happen? Yeah, I think I was told it was going to happen, but they did not schedule it. So it could have happened at any time. And I was having a conversation with a guy in a Croatian citizenship group on Facebook recently who had one, and he said that they scheduled it in advance. But then there was another person who said that they showed up on a Saturday night. I mean, they showed up at my house, I think like mid-morning on a work day, and I'm just glad I had a bra on, quite frankly. And that I wasn't on a call, you know? Marina's laughing. So these are the kinds of questions that they ask. So I'm going to tell you some of the questions they asked me, and then this guy that was in the Facebook group I was talking to, the kind of questions that he was asked. How long have I lived in Croatia? Do I own my apartment? Which religion do I have? What do I do for work? What are my hobbies? Am I married? Do I have children? Do I speak Croatian? Keep in mind, I did this interview in Croatian. And then this other guy, he was asked a lot more than me. What are your parents' names? Are they alive? Where do you live? Do you have any siblings? What are their names? Where's your home? Where were you born? What level of education do you have? And what subject? Where do you work? How much do you get paid? What is in your property portfolio and its locations? Do you have a foreign driver's license or a Croatian driver's license? Do you have medical insurance? And then he said that the field officer took his UK passport and took photos of every page with the stamps. I did not have to deal with any of that. So yeah, there is an interview, but it's nothing that you should be nervous about. You don't have to prepare for it. They're just like, I mean, you saw the examples of the questions. Those are all things that people should be able to answer off the top of their heads. They're just trying to get a fuller picture of who you are and your authenticity as an applicant, which seems fair. So if you need anything related to citizenship, we've got all of it. If you would like a lawyer to help you prepare your application, which we always recommend, we can hook you up with that. If you're not sure if you qualify for citizenship, just send us a DM. Cam will ask you some questions about your citizenship and your family, and we'll be able to put you on the right track. So those are all of our questions for today. Is there anything else I want to tell you today? Oh yeah, what comes next? So I'm here until Sunday, and then on Sunday I'm taking a ferry back to the island of Lošinj because I'm going to be doing a Croatian language immersion course. I'm pretty jazzed about that. If you were following back in September when I was here last, I did one of these immersion courses already, and it was a really life-changing experience. I need to find a better phrase for life-changing because, quite frankly, I feel like I say that a lot in Croatia, and I mean it every time. I really, really do. But that was a big experience. So the entire week, I only spoke Croatian. I did all of our stories here on Instagram in Croatian. I did a 5-question Friday in Croatian, you know what? My guess is next Friday, it will be an all Croatian edition of 5-question Friday. So what we did last time is I did it with my Croatian teacher, Linda, and we had questions. I asked her some questions. She asked me some questions. Everything got asked and answered in Croatian, but then I would real time translate it into English. So my guess is we will do that next Friday. So the person who says, will you speak some Croatian, tune in next Friday and you will see lots of me speaking Croatian. Something I also did the last time is I told a story in Croatian, which was the first time I'd ever done that. That was a really big deal for me. So I had this experience early in the morning on a beach in Lošinj near the village where I'm staying. And I wrote it down in my journal, and then my teacher helped me translate it into Croatian. And then every day we worked on it. Every day. We refined it and refined it and refined it. And I practiced it and I memorized it as much as I could. And then I filmed it and I put the story out here for you guys. And that was scary and intense, but I'm really proud of it. I'm really, really proud of it because I have a lot of Croatian in my head, but I get very nervous when I'm in front of others, and it can just all disappear from my brain. But the way to overcome that is to just talk as much as possible at every opportunity. And you know what? I'm going to tell you a quick story because I was going to do an episode today in Croatia to tell the story, and then I just never did. But I'll tell you right now. So a few weeks back, I was walking out of my building to go to my car to go to the beach. And as I hit the parking lot, there was this older Croatian gentleman, if I had to guess, upper 80s. And he asked me in Croatian where the market was. And just the reflex that came out of my mouth was tamo, tamo, and I pointed. And as I walked away from him, I was like, I could have said more than that. I have all of the words to tell him the exact turn-by-turn directions to get to the market. So I got in my car and I was driving out of the parking lot and I rolled by him and I rolled down the window and I was like, Gospodine. And then I gave him the directions completely in Croatian. And I was very proud of that.
Bravo.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in the moment, it can be really hard to, like I said, it just all flies out. But, if you have a moment to think about it and you know that you have the words, just spit them out no matter what you do. And I'll give you one more example and then I will let you guys go for the Friday. when I was on Loshin last year, I picked up a hitchhiker, which I have never done that before, but it's the island and it's Croatia and it's fine. And so I picked up a hitchhiker. She didn't speak any English, and I forced myself to ask her questions and tell her why I was on the island, even if she didn't ask. And because I was just sitting there, and I was like, Sarah, you have this opportunity. You're in this car with this stranger for 15 minutes. You do not have to sit here in silence. You have the words to say stuff, to have at least a basic conversation. This is why you're here on this island in the first place, is to speak as much Croatian as possible. So speak as much Croatian as possible. And I did, and it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but that's okay. You don't immediately speak perfect Croatian. There's shades, there's degrees, there's an evolution, just like anything. So I'm not perfect. I never claim to be perfect. I feel like I'm very, very honest about what my skill level is, because I know that I am not alone, and we're all in different places, all at different levels, and we all have different capabilities. We all learn differently, and the same standard should not be applied to all of us. And we just shouldn't have shame about it. And I know I've carried so much shame about my level of Croatian, but at this point, I know that I'm doing the absolute best that I can do. And that should be enough. That's enough for me. I hope it's enough for everybody else. And that's it. So now we're going to go back to our beach day. Thank you so much for being here for this beach edition of 5-Question Friday. It was such a treat. I can't really see you guys that well, so I hope I didn't miss any questions. So if you dropped a question and I happened to miss it, my apologies. Unfortunately, Instagram does not save this information. So if you would like to see your question answered, just shoot us a DM or drop us a comment after we post the replay, and then we will get it answered on a future episode of 5-Question Friday. I love all the weird questions. I love the mundane questions, whatever questions you got rolling around in your head. It's never too late to ask. So keep a lookout on stories. And if you're not following Expat in Croatia yet, if you are brand new, look at all this fun we're having. Go ahead and give us a follow. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And have a wonderful, sunny, beautiful weekend wherever you are. Love you so much. And vidimo se. Ciao. Okay, now I got to find the X. There we are. There we are. Bye.